The quiet was the first thing, not the gentle hum of a house settling or the distant city murmur, but an unnatural, almost surgical quiet. I remember standing in the doorway of our apartment that Saturday evening, groceries still clutched in my hands, a strange premonition prickling at the back of my neck. I'd spent the day with my sister Emily, a normal ritual of coffee and casual gossip. Everything had been normal. My life, my routines, my future with Ethan, all meticulously planned, all perfectly aligned. Until that moment. "Ethan?" I called out, my voice a tentative whisper in the vast stillness. No answer. The air was cool, the blinds drawn just so, everything impeccably neat. Too neat. Ethan was a tidy person, yes, but not this tidy. There was an emptiness, a hollowness that seemed to echo my own growing dread. I walked into our bedroom, my heart beginning a frantic drum against my ribs, and then I froze. His side of the closet was a gaping void. No neatly folded shirts, no jackets, no familiar scent of his cologne clinging to the fabric. The drawer where he kept his watches, his cufflinks, his everyday essentials, cleared out. The bathroom cabinet, half empty, his electric toothbrush, his shaving cream, his specific brand of toothpaste, all gone. It was as if a ghost had passed through, carefully, methodically erasing every trace of him from our shared life, while I was out, blissfully unaware, enjoying a normal Saturday. No note, nothing. Just gone. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone. Ethan's number, straight to voicemail, a frantic text, then another, and another. No delivery receipt. My thumbs flew to Instagram, then Facebook, then Snapchat. Blocked. On everything. It was like I'd been digitally amputated from his life in an instant. Panic, raw and unadulterated, seized me. My breath hitched in my throat. I sank onto the edge of our bed, the side that was still, ironically, mine. My mind raced, trying to piece together a coherent narrative, but there was only a fractured kaleidoscope of confusion. 4 years. We'd been together for 4 years, lived together for 2 of those. We'd planned holidays, talked about future houses, even whispered about children. How could someone just vanish? I started calling our friends, a desperate litany of ringing phones and confused voices. "Have you heard from Ethan? Is he okay?" He just disappeared. Nobody knew anything. Or at least, that's what they claimed. Their voices laced with a peculiar blend of concern and something else I couldn't quite decipher. A hesitant uncertainty. The strangest part wasn't just the disappearance, but the cold, calculated precision of it. We had accumulated so much together. Furniture, kitchen appliances, countless knickknacks that marked the passage of our years. But he had taken only what was undeniably his. The fancy coffee maker he'd brought into the relationship? Gone. The oversized, comfortable couch we'd picked out together at IKEA? Still there. Our shared bookshelf, crammed with novels we'd read and discussed? Untouched. It was an act of severance so clean, so final, it felt like a surgical incision. There was no anger, no chaos, no sign of a fight, just absence. A deliberate, meticulous erasing. By the 3rd day, the initial shock had curdled into a gnawing agony. My body felt like it was betraying me. Sleep was a distant memory, food a concept my stomach rejected. The panic attacks began, sudden, suffocating waves of fear that left me hyperventilating, clutching my chest, convinced I was dying. Our mutual friends, at first hesitant, started reaching out more frequently. "Ava, what happened? Did you two have a fight?" I clung to my carefully constructed facade of innocence. "I have absolutely no idea," I'd whisper, my voice raw from crying. Everything was completely normal. But it wasn't. Not exactly. 1 week in, I was at my breaking point. 50 voicemails. Hundreds of texts. I'd even tried reaching out to his parents, only to receive a curt, unyielding reply. "Ethan is fine, Ava, but he doesn't want to speak with you." The words were like a physical blow, stripping away any last shred of hope that this was some misunderstanding, some elaborate prank. Then Maya came over. She was one of my oldest friends, someone I thought I could count on. But the look on her face when she walked through the door, that pitying yet subtly judgmental glint in her eyes, it set my teeth on edge. She moved with a strange carefulness, as if navigating a minefield. "Ava," she began, her voice soft, cautious. Is there anything you need to tell me? Anything that might explain why Ethan left? The way she asked it, the carefully chosen words. I knew. Somehow, he knew. About Marcus. But how? I'd been so careful. So careful. Or so I thought. I maintained my innocent act, of course. What are you talking about, Maya? Everything was perfect between us. My voice cracked, appropriately, and fresh tears welled up. And they were real tears then, real panic. Because my meticulously constructed world was crumbling around me, and I was losing control of the narrative. The truth. Things with Ethan hadn't been perfect for a while. He'd been working longer hours at his law firm, climbing the ladder, always tired when he got home. We'd stopped talking about anything meaningful. Sex became routine, a perfunctory act when it happened at all. I felt invisible, taken for granted. A slow, insidious loneliness had begun to creep into the edges of our once vibrant connection. Then Marcus started at my office 2 months ago. He was the antithesis of Ethan's quiet steadiness. Vibrant, charismatic, with an easy smile that always seemed to find me across the crowded office. He noticed me in ways Ethan hadn't in years, complimented my ideas in meetings, asked about my day and actually listened to the answer, his dark eyes reflecting genuine interest. One happy hour led to drinks alone, which led to his apartment. I told myself it was just physical. Just once. Something I needed to feel alive again, to reclaim a piece of myself I felt had been dulled by the routine. But it wasn't just once. For 8 weeks, I'd been living a double life. Texting Marcus during work hours, making up girls' nights to see him, coming home to Ethan with the scent of another man's cologne washed away in a gym shower. The thrill of it was intoxicating. Having this secret that was just mine, feeling desired again, seen again. It was a potent, dangerous cocktail of guilt and exhilaration. Looking back, there had been signs. Small, insidious little cracks in my carefully erected facade that Ethan must have noticed. Questions about why I was working late so often. The way he'd check my phone when I left it unlocked on the coffee table. A subtle flicker in his eyes. How he'd started suggesting weekend trips, date nights, as if trying to reconnect, to pull me back from some invisible edge. I'd dismissed his concerns, made him feel paranoid for even asking. Don't you trust me? I'd say, watching him back down, guilt written across his face for even questioning me. I'd wielded his trust like a weapon, twisting it against him. 3 days before he disappeared, I'd forgotten to log out of my personal email on our shared laptop. Marcus had sent details about a hotel he'd booked for us. Not the first time, but definitely the most explicit message. I remembered feeling a flicker of panic when I couldn't find my phone that evening, assuming I'd accidentally left it open. Now I realized Ethan hadn't been normal in those last few days. He'd been planning. While I was carelessly conducting my affair, he was methodically organizing his exit. She's the villain here, I whispered to my empty apartment, trying to convince myself. Who leaves without a conversation, without a chance to explain or apologize? I deserved at least a fight, tears, accusations. Something to give me the opportunity to beg forgiveness, to promise it would never happen again. His silence was so much worse than anger could ever be. It was the absolute finality of it. 2 weeks after he vanished, Maya called. Her voice was strange, distant. Ethan reached out to me, she said. He wanted me to check on you. Make sure you're okay. My heart raced. What? Where is he? Did he say anything about why he left? A pause. A heavy, pregnant silence. Ava, Maya's voice hardened, he knows about Marcus. He has proof. He showed me the messages. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? Don't. Just don't. She cut me off, her voice devoid of sympathy. He has screenshots. Hotel receipts. He even followed you one night. He saw you with him. I hung up and threw my phone across the room, the plastic casing cracking against the wall. The worst part wasn't that Ethan knew the truth. It was that now, others were beginning to know it too. 3 weeks in, and everything was falling apart. After Maya's revelation, the floodgates opened. Ethan had apparently sent evidence of my affair to several of our closest friends. Not publicly, not vindictively, just privately sharing why he'd left so suddenly. One by one, my support system crumbled. I can't believe you made us worry about you when you were the one cheating, Isla texted before blocking me. Ethan is heartbroken. How could you do this to him, to us? We trusted you, wrote Ryan, who'd been at our housewarming party, who'd helped Ethan pick out my birthday gift last year. Even people who didn't know the specifics started acting differently around me. Whispers followed me at work. Marcus began taking his lunch at different times, avoiding eye contact in meetings. The affair had fizzled almost immediately after Ethan left. Marcus got spooked by my emotional situation, as he called it. Men are such cowards when things get complicated. I tried changing the narrative. It wasn't what it looked like. I told anyone who would still listen. Ethan and I were practically broken up already. He was emotionally unavailable for months. I even tried. It was just a mistake. One time. And he's overreacting. Who disappears after 4 years over one mistake? Some people, mostly acquaintances who didn't know Ethan well, seemed willing to give me the benefit of the doubt. But those closest to us? They knew better. They'd seen us together. They knew Ethan wasn't some emotionally distant workaholic. They remembered how he looked at me. How he always made sure I was included, comfortable, happy. You know what your problem is, Ava? My sister Emily finally snapped, after listening to me spin the same excuses for the 5th time. You can't stand that he didn't give you the satisfaction of seeing him broken. He just opted out. And it's driving you crazy. She was right, though I'd never admit it to her. The fact that he hadn't fought for me, hadn't begged to know why, hadn't given me the chance to manipulate the situation, it was infuriating. I had prepared so many excuses, justifications, even tears, all wasted on an empty apartment. I became obsessed with tracking him down. Not because I necessarily wanted him back. At this point, I wasn't even sure I did. But because I couldn't stand being the one left behind. The one everyone blamed. I needed to find him. Needed to talk to him, face to face. Where my tears and our history might still hold some power. If I could just see him, touch him, remind him of what we had before everything went wrong. Maybe I could fix this. Maybe I could at least reclaim a sliver of my shattered dignity. 2 months after Ethan vanished, I got my break. A casual scroll through a mutual friend's Instagram stories revealed a location tag. A new, trendy coffee shop across town. And there, in the background of a group photo, barely visible but unmistakable, Ethan. Sitting at a corner table, laptop open, looking fine. He looked fine. Not devastated. Not hollowed out and broken. Just normal. Something snapped inside me. While I'd been falling apart, missing work, alienating friends, and having panic attacks on my bathroom floor, he'd been moving on. The unfairness of it all was staggering. I didn't plan what happened next. Not consciously, anyway. I just found myself driving to that coffee shop the following morning, arriving at 8:15. Ethan was always ritualistic about his morning coffee. I parked across the street and waited, heart hammering so hard I could barely breathe. At 8:20, he appeared, walking up the street in his charcoal peacoat. He looked good. Rested, calm, purposeful. I watched him order at the counter, exchange a familiar smile with the barista. How often had he been coming here? Then settle at a table near the window. Before I could talk myself out of it, I was crossing the street, pushing open the coffee shop door, walking toward him. He didn't notice me until I was standing right at his table, casting a shadow across his open laptop. Ava. Just my name, spoken flatly. No surprise, no emotion. As if he'd been expecting this moment. You just left. My voice sounded strange, strangled. No explanation. No fight. Nothing. 4 years. And you just disappeared. Sit down, he said quietly, glancing around at the other customers who were beginning to stare. You're making a scene. My throat tightened. You know why I left, he said, his voice low but steady. You know exactly why. You could have talked to me, given me a chance to explain. Explain what? For the first time, a flash of anger broke through his careful composure. How you lied to my face for months. How you were sleeping with your coworker while I was planning our future. It wasn't what you think, I said, falling back on the same pathetic defenses I'd been rehearsing for weeks. Things between us weren't good. You were always working, always distracted. Stop. He held up his hand, a clear, definitive gesture. I'm not doing this. I'm not sitting here listening to you rewrite our relationship to justify your choices. Then why did you ask Maya to check on me? Why do you care if I'm holding up all right? I threw his words back at him, searching for any crack in his armor, any sign that he still felt something. Anything. For me. Because I'm not cruel, he said simply. I didn't want you spiraling. But that doesn't mean I owe you a conversation about this. You owe me closure. My voice rose again, causing more heads to turn. Ethan's eyes hardened. I don't owe you anything anymore. You ended our relationship the moment you decided to cheat. I just made it official. The barista approached, concern on her face. Everything okay here? It's fine, Diana, Ethan said. He knew her name. Of course he did. I was just leaving. He stood, gathering his things with maddening calm. No. I grabbed his arm, my nails digging into his sleeve. You don't get to walk away again. I need... Ma'am. The barista interrupted, her voice firm. I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice or leave. Ethan gently removed my hand from his arm. What you need isn't something I can give you anymore, Ava. Where are you living? I demanded, desperation making me reckless. Are you seeing someone new already? Is that it? He sighed, looking genuinely tired now. This is exactly why I left the way I did. I knew any conversation would just be you trying to control the situation, make yourself the victim, find ways to blame me. I'm done with that dynamic. Sir, the barista said to Ethan, do you need me to call someone? No need, he said, sliding his laptop into his bag. I was just leaving. To me, he added quietly, don't come looking for me again, Ava. It's over. Let both of us move on. As he walked toward the door, I called after him, my voice cracking. So that's it? 4 years ends like this? He paused, turned slightly, his gaze meeting mine for a fleeting second. Number. It ended 2 months ago. This is just you refusing to accept it. 6 months after Ethan disappeared from my life, I sat in my new apartment. Smaller. In a less desirable neighborhood than the one we'd shared. I'd kept my job, barely, though the promotion I'd been in line for went to someone else. Marcus, ironically. He avoided eye contact in the hallways now. Some friends had tentatively reconnected after my public pursuit of Ethan stopped, though our relationships remained strained, fragile. You seem better, my sister Emily said over coffee that morning, though her eyes held a question, a subtle probe. I am, I replied automatically. The lie came easily after so many months of practice. Work's going well. I'm thinking of taking a vacation next month. Anything to paint a picture of forward momentum, of a life being rebuilt. Good, she hesitated, stirring her coffee. Then, have you heard about Ethan? My heart stuttered painfully. Should I have? I tried to sound nonchalant, but my voice wavered. He's engaged, Emily blurted out, her gaze fixed on her mug. To Sophia, the woman he's been seeing. It was on Instagram last night. The coffee turned to acid in my stomach. 6 months. 6 months from discovering my affair to proposing to someone new. The cosmic unfairness of it burned like bile in my throat. At home, I broke my 6-week streak of not looking him up online. There it was. The announcement. The ring. The glowing comments from friends, our friends, congratulating him on finding someone who deserves you, celebrating their perfect match. One comment from Maya stuck out painfully. So happy you found your person after everything, Ethan. You deserve this happiness more than anyone. I scrolled through photos of them together. Hiking, at parties, cooking in what must be his new kitchen. She fit seamlessly into the life that was supposed to be mine. In each picture, Ethan looked relaxed. Genuinely happy. In a way I couldn't remember seeing in our later years together. A deep, unsettling pang twisted in my gut. The most painful realization wasn't that he'd moved on. It was that he seemed better off without me. Happier. More himself. While I was still stuck in the wreckage of what we'd been, he'd somehow emerged stronger, finding someone who apparently made him happier than I ever had. He hadn't just moved on, he'd upgraded. My phone pinged with a notification. A group message from Isla to several old friends, including me. Probably by accident. She was organizing Ethan and Sophia's engagement party. The message included details of the venue, an upscale rooftop bar downtown. 3 glasses of wine later, the idea had metamorphosed from unthinkable to inevitable. I would go. Not to cause a scene, I told myself. I was past that stage of grief. Just to see them together with my own eyes. to understand what she had that I didn't, to get the closure Ethan had denied me by disappearing, to prove to myself and maybe to them that I wasn't broken. The night of the party, I spent hours getting ready. A new dress, sleek and flattering, professional makeup, hair styled perfectly. I arrived fashionably late, riding the elevator to the rooftop with a hammering heart. The hostess smiled as I approached the private section reserved for the party. Name? Ava Mitchell, I said confidently. I'm with the engagement celebration. She checked her tablet, her smile faltering. I'm sorry, I don't see your name on the list. Ava, what are you doing here? I turned to find Isla staring at me, champagne glass in hand, confusion giving way to alarm. I got the invitation, I said, gesturing vaguely at my phone, the group message. Her face fell. That was sent to you by mistake. You know you're not supposed to be here. More heads were turning now. And then, through the crowd, I saw him. Ethan. Handsome in a navy suit, arm around a woman in a white dress, who had to be Sophia. Our eyes met across the rooftop. His smile vanished. His body tensed slightly, instinctively pulling Sophia closer to his side. A protective gesture that spoke volumes about how he now saw me. As a threat. The hostess was speaking into her earpiece now. Security to the rooftop, please. Ava, you need to leave, Isla said gently but firmly, taking my arm. This isn't about you. It hasn't been about you for a long time. Security arrived. 2 men in dark suits with discreet earpieces. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. I'm leaving, I said, snatching my purse from Ila's grasp. Tell Ethan congratulations from me. Tell him I hope she makes him happier than I apparently did. And tell him that real love doesn't just disappear overnight, no matter what pretty replacement you find. As security escorted me to the elevator, I caught one last glimpse of the party. Ethan was speaking urgently to Sophia, who looked concerned but not angry. Their friends had gathered protectively around them, shielding the happy couple from the crazy ex's intrusion. In that moment, the truth I'd been avoiding for months finally crystallized. I was the villain in their story, the obstacle they'd overcome, the cautionary tale they'd tell at dinner parties years from now. My phone buzzed in my purse. Probably Emily, who'd be hearing about this disaster within minutes from someone at the party. I ignored it, hailing a cab instead. I couldn't face anyone right now. Not even the one person who still tried to love me through my worst moments. Eventually, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Emily. 2 texts from her. Please tell me you didn't go to that party. Followed by call me ASAP. Then a message from an unknown number. This is Sophia, we need to talk. My heart stopped. Sophia, Ethan's fiancée, had my number. My thumbs hovered over the screen, mind racing. What could she possibly want? To rub it in? To warn me off? I finally typed, when and where. The response came quickly. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Riverfront Coffee on Main. I slept poorly, imagining every possible scenario for this meeting. Accusations, threats, a smug lecture. I mentally rehearsed my own defenses, my justifications. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop 20 minutes early, choosing a corner table with a view of the door. At exactly 2, she walked in. I recognized her immediately from the photos, though she looked different in person. Taller than I'd imagined, with a quiet confidence in the way she carried herself. No visible engagement ring. She'd tucked it away, I realized, for this meeting. Ava, she said, sitting down across from me. Her voice was calm, steady. Thank you for coming. Did Ethan send you? I asked immediately, bracing myself. Number. She wrapped her hands around her mug, a faint steam rising. He doesn't know I'm here, and I'd prefer to keep it that way. Then why? I wanted to see you for myself, she said simply. To understand. Understand what? The woman who haunts him. Her bluntness caught me off guard. Even after everything, even with us engaged, there's this shadow. I can feel it sometimes. When certain songs play, when we drive past your old neighborhood. A strange, fleeting triumph flickered in my chest. So I wasn't completely erased after all. I still existed somewhere in his mind. Can I ask you something? She leaned forward slightly, her gaze direct, unblinking. Why did you cheat on him? The directness of the question stunned me. No one had asked it so plainly, without judgment or preamble. It's complicated, I stammered, falling back on the old script. I'm sure it is, she agreed, surprisingly. Most important things are. We grew apart, I said finally, picking at a loose thread on my sleeve. He was working all the time. I felt neglected. It just happened. She nodded, considering this. And was it worth it? The affair, she meant? Obviously not, I snapped, gesturing vaguely at my current messy life. Look at my life now. That's not what I asked, she said gently. I mean, in the moment, when you were deciding to cross that line, did you think it would be worth whatever consequences might come? I didn't think there would be consequences, I admitted in a small voice. I never thought he'd find out. And if he did, I trailed off, realizing how selfish it sounded. You thought he'd forgive you, she finished for me. Fight for you, not walk away. I nodded, throat tight. That's what I needed to understand, she said, almost to herself. You never really knew him at all, did you? The words struck like a physical blow. I was with him for 4 years. Of course I knew him. The Ethan I know would never stay with someone who betrayed him, she said with quiet certainty. Not because he's unforgiving, but because trust means everything to him. Once it's broken, it's broken. He doesn't do second chances with trust. We could have worked through it, I insisted, my voice rising again. If he just talked to me instead of disappearing. That's what I'm trying to tell you, she interrupted. For him, there was nothing to work through. No conversation that needed to happen. Once you betrayed his trust, it was over. The Ethan who loved you ceased to exist in that moment. How many times had Ethan told me, in different ways, that trust was his non-negotiable? How many stories had he shared about his parents' toxic marriage, built on lies and second chances that never fixed the fundamental break? How had I missed that this was his line in the sand? How could I have been so blind, so self-absorbed, that I completely misread the man I claimed to love? Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Because you're still waiting for a different ending, she said, her gaze steady. Still convinced there's unfinished business between you, and as long as you believe that, you can't move forward. Neither can he, completely. Neither can I. Is that what this is? I gestured between us. You helping me move on so your relationship can be shadow-free? She considered this. Partly, yes. I won't pretend this is purely altruistic. But also, she paused, choosing her words carefully, I know what it's like to be stuck in the aftermath of choices you can't take back. She looked at her watch. I should go, she said, gathering her things. Ethan will be wondering where I am. As she turned to leave, a final question burst from me. Are you happy together? I mean, she paused, then looked back with a small, genuine smile. Yes, Ava, we are. And someday, I hope you find what makes you happy too. But you won't find it looking backward. For the first time since he'd vanished from my life, I truly understood. There had never been a chance for reconciliation. No possible combination of words or tears or promises that could have changed the outcome. The moment I betrayed his trust, it was over. I just hadn't known it yet. The realization didn't bring peace, exactly, but it brought something adjacent to it. A clarity that had been missing these long, painful months. The story had ended, not in the way I'd wanted or expected, but it had ended nonetheless, and I'd been the one who ended it, with choices I couldn't unmake. I pulled out my phone and texted my sister. Can I come over? I think I'm finally ready to talk. Really talk. Her response came immediately. Always. Doors open. I put my phone away and began walking, not looking back. Ethan was gone. The life we'd planned was gone. The woman I thought I was, the good person, the victim, was gone too. All that remained was who I might become next in the aftermath of my choices, whether I'd learn from them or repeat them. Whether I'd continue blaming everyone else for my unhappiness, or finally take responsibility for creating my own. The path forward looked lonely and uncertain. But for the first time in 6 months, at least, it looked forward. Not back at what I'd lost, but ahead to what I might still find, if I was brave enough to face myself honestly at last. Maybe that was the only closure I was ever going to get. Maybe it was the only closure I deserved.